To everyone else, he was a traitor, a corrupt sinner hiding in a tree. They saw a problem to be scorned. But Jesus looked up, past the leaves, past the reputation, and saw something else entirely. He saw a man he knew by name. This is the story of how being truly seen led to one of history's most dramatic transformations. Have you ever felt misunderstood? Defined by your worst mistakes, your job, your social status, or the rumors whispered behind your back? Have you ever felt lost in a crowd, desperately wanting to see someone who could change everything, but feeling like you were just too small, too pushed aside, too unworthy? If you have, then you know exactly how Zacchaeus felt. His story, found in the Gospel of Luke, is more than just a children's song about a wee little man. It's a profound and life-altering account of what happens when the creator of the universe stops everything, looks past 1,000 other faces, and calls you out of hiding, by name. It's the story of a man who had everything the world could offer but was empty inside, and in one stunning moment, found everything he was truly searching for. To get how radical this encounter was, you have to understand the man. Luke chapter 19 introduces him with just a few powerful words. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy in our world. Wealthy might make you think of success and respect, but in first century Jericho, for a guy like Zacchaeus, wealth was the very symbol of his corruption. So, what did it even mean to be a chief tax collector? This wasn't just some government agent with a steady salary. In the eyes of his own people, Zacchaeus was a traitor of the highest order. Judea was under Roman occupation, and the empire outsourced tax collection in a system called tax farming. Rome set a price for a region, and a wealthy locale, someone like Zacchaeus, would bid for the contract. He'd pay Rome their fee up front. Then, every single coin he collected above that amount was his to keep. The whole system was practically designed for extortion. There was no oversight. Every shekel Zacchaeus added to his own purse was a shekel squeezed from his own countrymen, farmers, merchants, and widows struggling under Roman rule. To make matters worse, Jericho wasn't just any town. It was a major trade hub, a city of immense wealth, famous for its lucrative production of balsam, a highly prized perfume. As the chief tax collector, Zacchaeus sat at the top of this pyramid scheme, overseeing other collectors and taking a cut of their profits, too. The result was fabulously wealthy. He lived in a fine house, ate the best food, and wore the finest clothes. But this wealth came at a terrible price. He was despised. To his Jewish neighbors, he was a collaborator with the oppressive Roman regime and a constant reminder of their subjugation. He had betrayed his people and his God for money. The Gospels often group tax collectors and sinners together, and this wasn't just a casual phrase. It was a label for the lowest rung of society. A devout Jew would have considered him unclean, a man whose very presence was contaminating. Ironically, his name Zacchaeus comes from a Hebrew word meaning pure or innocent. His life was anything but. Imagine the isolation. Imagine the crushing weight of that hatred. He could buy anything he wanted, but he couldn't buy a single friend, a clear conscience, or an ounce of respect. He was an outcast in his own community. His life was a gilded cage. He had all the treasure in the world, but was spiritually bankrupt. And somewhere inside that fortress of loneliness, a quiet desperation began to grow. He'd heard stories about a teacher from Nazareth named Jesus. This man healed the sick, and most curiously, he ate with sinners and welcomed tax collectors. Could there be someone who wouldn't look at him and see only a monster? A flicker of hope, or maybe just desperate curiosity, began to burn. He had to see this man for himself. This longing would soon drive him to do something a man of his pride and stature would never, ever do. The day came when the news hit the streets. Jesus was coming to Jericho. The city erupted into a chaotic sea of humanity. Everyone wanted to catch a glimpse of the famous rabbi. For Zacchaeus, this was a huge problem. Luke tells us plainly. A proud, wealthy man might have given up, but the desperation in Zacchaeus' soul was greater than his pride. So, he does something completely undignified. He hitches up his expensive robes and runs. Picture this, a rich, powerful official running like a commoner, his face flushed. He ran ahead of the procession, past the pointing fingers and shocked faces, fixated on a single goal. He spotted a sycamore fig tree up ahead. This was a common tree in the Jordan Valley, known for having strong, low branches that were easy to climb. But there's a subtle irony here. Its fruit was considered coarse, food for the poor. This wealthy man who built his fortune on the backs of the poor now found his only hope in a tree associated with them. For a grown man of his standing to climb a tree was humiliating. It's something kids do, but Zacchaeus didn't care. He scrambled up its branches, found a perch among the large leaves, and waited. He thought he was just positioning himself to be a hidden spectator. He wanted to see, but he didn't want to be seen. He had no idea that he was about to become the center of the story. He thought he was seeking Jesus, but in reality, Jesus was seeking him. The procession grew louder. From his perch, Zacchaeus could see Jesus moving through the sea of people. He leaned forward, peering through the leaves. Then, the impossible happened. The entire procession came to a halt, right below his tree. A hush must have fallen over the crowd. Why had he stopped? And then, Jesus looked up. He didn't just glance around. He deliberately tilted his head back and looked straight into the branches. His eyes cut through the shadows and landed directly on the hidden man. The gaze of the Son of God pierced through Zacchaeus' leafy camouflage and saw him, the lonely, broken man hiding from the world. His heart surely pounded in his chest. He was discovered, exposed. But what came next was even more staggering. Jesus didn't point and shout, "Look at the sinner in the tree." Instead, a voice filled not with judgment, but with an impossible intimacy, cut through the silence. He spoke his name, Zacchaeus. Think about the power of that. He didn't say, "Hey, you, in the tree." He called him by his name, the name that meant pure and innocent. In that single word, Jesus stripped away all the labels and saw the man underneath. It was a statement. "I see you. I know you." This is the call of the Good Shepherd, who calls his own sheep by name. The shock was immediately followed by a command that sent ripples of disbelief through the crowd. "Come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." Let's not miss the audacity of this. "I must stay at your house." The original Greek implies a divine necessity, a pre-planned appointment. And whose house did he choose? Not the head rabbi's, but the home of the most notorious sinner in the city. To a devout Jew, sharing a meal with a sinner like Zacchaeus meant becoming ceremonially unclean. The crowd was stunned, and then the silence broke into angry muttering. "He has gone to be the guest of a sinner," they grumbled. They saw a problem. Jesus saw a person. He didn't wait for Zacchaeus to clean up his act. He offered grace first. For Zacchaeus, this was everything. He had climbed the tree hoping for a glimpse, and now the man he sought was demanding to be his guest. The call was urgent, and Zacchaeus' response was just as immediate. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. He scrambled down that tree, his heart overflowing with an explosive, uncontainable joy. The King of the universe had seen him, known him, and chosen him. Nothing else mattered. As Zacchaeus led Jesus into his luxurious house, the grumbling of the crowd followed them. Theirs was a theology of separation, of earning God's favor. Jesus, however, operated on a completely different economy, the economy of grace. He understood that you don't heal the sick by avoiding the hospital. His presence in that house wasn't an endorsement of Zacchaeus' sin. It was the antidote to it. We aren't told what they talked about. But whatever happened, the sheer, unmerited grace of being accepted by Jesus worked a miracle in Zacchaeus' heart. At some point, he stood up to make a public declaration. He addressed Jesus as Lord and said, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor." Stop and consider that. Not a 10% tithe, half of everything he owned. The man who had spent his life taking was, in an instant, becoming one of the most generous men in Judea. This was the first piece of evidence that a true change had occurred, but he wasn't done. "And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." To a first-century Jew, this was a thunderclap. The law of Moses required a repentant thief to repay the stolen amount plus 20%. A harsher penalty, for a thief caught in the act, was to repay 4-fold for a stolen sheep. By choosing this 4-fold measure, Zacchaeus was publicly admitting his guilt in the most dramatic way possible. He wasn't looking for a loophole. He was joyfully embracing the maximum possible restitution. This wasn't a man trying to buy his way into heaven. This was the spontaneous, grateful fruit of a heart that had already been saved. The crowd grumbled because Jesus went to a sinner's house. They saw only the problem. But Jesus saw the potential, and now it was realized in a radical act of justice and love. Jesus then turns and delivers the final verdict, not just to Zacchaeus, but to the grumblers as well. He doesn't say, "Okay, now you're saved," as salvation had already arrived. The actions were the proof, not the price. Jesus declared, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man, too, is a son of Abraham." With this, he confirms Zacchaeus' salvation and restores his identity. The crowd saw an outcast. Jesus saw a true son of Abraham. And then, Jesus delivers the thesis statement for his entire ministry. "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." Zacchaeus wasn't a distraction from the mission. He was the living embodiment of it. The story of Zacchaeus echoes through 2,000 years and speaks directly to us. It's a story about seeing and being seen. Zacchaeus was a man defined by what everyone else saw, a short, greedy, traitorous sinner. So many of us live in that same prison, defined by our past failures, by labels, or by our own secrets. We feel unseen for who we really are. Zacchaeus' story tells us that there is one who sees differently. Jesus looked past the label and saw the man. He looked past the sin and saw a soul who was lost and needed finding. He sees you the same way. He sees past the leaves you might be hiding behind, and he knows your name. What tree have you climbed to get a glimpse of Jesus? Maybe it's the humble act of opening a Bible for the first time in years. Maybe it's walking into a church, terrified of being judged. Zacchaeus' story shows that no effort to see Jesus, no matter how clumsy it feels, goes unnoticed. He meets you where you are. Notice the nature of his call. It's personal and urgent. He doesn't say, "Clean yourself up and then I'll come near." He says, "I must come to your house today." He invites himself into the mess of our lives, because that's where his transformative grace does its most beautiful work. The result of that grace is always transformation. For Zacchaeus, it meant a radical change in his relationship with money and people. A genuine encounter with Jesus always changes us. Repentance isn't a grim duty. It's the joyful, freeing response of a grateful heart. The final, glorious truth of this story is its last line. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. This is his mission statement. He is a seeking Savior. He isn't passively waiting for you to find him. He is actively, passionately looking for you. You may feel lost, but you are the one he is searching for. You may feel like the worst of sinners, but you are the very person he came to save. The story of Zacchaeus is an open invitation. It proves that no one is too far gone or too broken to be reached by the grace of God. He just asks that you be willing to come down from your tree when he calls. If this story of being seen and transformed resonates with you, take a moment. What's the tree you're hiding in? What are the labels you've let define you? I want to invite you to do what Zacchaeus did. Respond to the call. You can do that right now by simply saying, "Jesus, I want to see you, and I want to be seen by you. Come into my house. Come into my life, just as I am." If this message has encouraged you, please consider subscribing and share this video with someone who might need to hear that they, too, are seen and called by name. From a despised outcast in a sycamore tree to a celebrated son of Abraham, Zacchaeus' life was changed in a single afternoon. It wasn't a complex argument that transformed him. It was a personal encounter. It was the profound, life-shattering realization that the God of the universe saw past everything the world held against him, looked up, and called him by name. That same call echoes today. It's a call out of hiding and into fellowship, out of brokenness and into wholeness. It is the call to come down, welcome him gladly, and let salvation come to your house today.